Please help me. He's going to kill me tonight. A 7-year-old boy with blood pouring down his face crashed into a Hell's Angel's legs and held on with both fists, barefoot, shaking, cigarette burns on his arms, finger-shaped bruises wrapped around his throat. The biker looked down at this broken child clinging to him in a parking lot full of 107 motorcycles and felt his whole world crack open. Because 30 years ago, he was that boy, and nobody came. Within minutes, every Hell's Angel in that bar surrounded the child like a human fortress. What they uncovered next would expose a killer hiding behind the most trusted face in town. If this story moves you, please subscribe to the channel and follow this story all the way to the end. Drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from so I can see how far this story has traveled. Ethan Marshall ran. His bare feet slapped the asphalt and every step sent pain shooting through his ribs. But he didn't slow down. He couldn't slow down. Not tonight. Behind him, somewhere in the dark, the house still stood with its porch light on and its front door wide open. Inside that house, Derek Lawson sat in his recliner with a hammer on the armrest and a bottle of whiskey in his fist. Ethan had seen the hammer come up. He'd seen Derek's eyes go blank the way they always did right before the worst happened. And for the first time in 3 years, Ethan didn't freeze. He ran. He was 7 years old. He weighed 52 pounds. He was wearing a torn t-shirt and pajama bottoms with dinosaurs on them, and he had no idea where he was going. He just knew he couldn't stay. His left eye was swollen almost shut. Blood from his nose had dried on his upper lip. The bruises around his throat throbbed with every heartbeat, and his ribs, the ones Derek had kicked an hour ago, screamed every time he breathed. But he kept running. Then he saw the lights. At first, Ethan thought it was a gas station, but as he got closer, stumbling now, his vision blurring, he saw the motorcycles. Dozens of them. No, more than dozens. They filled the entire parking lot in perfect rows, chrome catching the light from a neon sign that read, Iron Creek Tavern. And standing outside, leaning against the biggest motorcycle Ethan had ever seen, was a man who looked like he could tear a phone book in half. Gunnar Wade, 6'3", 245 pounds, brown hair pulled back in a knot, arms covered in tattoos from wrist to shoulder, a leather vest with patches that Ethan couldn't read in the dark, a face that looked like it had been carved out of granite and then punched a few times for good measure. Gunnar was finishing a cigarette and thinking about nothing in particular when he heard the footsteps. Fast, uneven, desperate. He turned and saw the kid. Ethan stopped 10 feet away. He stood there swaying, chest heaving, blood on his face, one eye swollen shut. He looked at Gunnar and the motorcycles, and the leather, and the tattoos, and he ran straight at him. Please! Ethan grabbed Gunnar's leg with both hands and held on like his life depended on it, because it did. Please help me. He's coming. He's going to kill me tonight. Please don't send me back. Gunnar didn't move for 3 full seconds. He looked down at this child, this tiny broken child, clinging to his leg with fingers that were shaking so hard they could barely grip the denim. He saw the swollen eye, the blood, the bruises shaped like adult fingers wrapped around a throat that was smaller than his forearm. And Gunnar Wade, who hadn't cried since he was 14 years old, felt something crack open in the center of his chest. Hey! He crouched down slowly, his knees popping. Hey, easy, I got you. What's your name? Ethan. Ethan Marshall. I'm 7. Please, you have to hide me. He said tonight's the night. He had a hammer. Who said that? My stepdad, Derek. He's drunk. He's always drunk. But tonight he got the hammer from the garage and he said, the kid couldn't finish. His whole body was shaking now, not just his hands, everything. Okay, Ethan, you're safe now. Everybody says you guys are bad. Everybody says you hurt people. But I didn't have anywhere else to go. I'm sorry, I didn't know where to go. Gunnar felt the rage building at the base of his skull. Not at the kid, at whoever had done this to him. at the handprints on his throat, at the fact that a 7-year-old had run through the dark to a biker bar because it was safer than his own home. "Where's your mom?" "Dead. Car accident. I was 4. It's just me and Derek now." "Any family? Grandparents? Aunts?" Ethan shook his head. "Nobody. Just Derek. And Derek says I killed my mom. He says if I wasn't born, she never would have been driving that night. He says I owe him for taking care of me." Gunner's jaw locked so hard his teeth ached. He picked Ethan up. The boy weighed nothing. Absolutely nothing. A 7-year-old shouldn't weigh this little. He was all bones and bruises and fear. "We're going inside. There's going to be a lot of big guys in there, and they all look scary. But nobody's going to hurt you. You understand me?" "Yes, sir." "Don't call me sir, call me Gunner." "Okay, Gunner." He pushed through the tavern door with Ethan in his arms. The noise died instantly. 107 Hell's Angels sat in that bar. They were drinking, playing pool, talking, laughing, and every single one of them went silent when they saw the child. Gunner walked to the center of the room. Ethan buried his face in Gunner's shoulder, terrified of all those eyes. Roach stood up. Daniel Whitfield, club president, early 50s, silver brown hair, ice blue eyes that could freeze you from across a room. He'd led the Hells Angels chapter for 12 years, and in that time, nobody had ever seen him lose his composure. He lost it now. "What happened?" It wasn't a question. "Kid ran here. Stepdad tried to kill him tonight. With a hammer." "A hammer? Look at his face, Roach." Roach walked over. He looked at Ethan's injuries. His expression didn't change, but his hands balled into fists at his sides. "What's your name, son?" "Ethan." The boy's voice was muffled against Gunner's vest. "Ethan Marshall." "Ethan, I'm Roach. I'm in charge here. Can you look at me?" Ethan slowly turned his head. When Roach saw the full extent of the damage, the swollen eye, the split lip, the finger-shaped bruises on the child's throat, the cigarette burns visible where his shirt had torn, Roach took one step back. Then he turned to the room. "Lock the doors. Doc, get over here now. Chains, call your cousin at the sheriff's office. Tank, I want security on every entrance. Nobody gets in without my say-so." The room erupted into controlled motion. Every man moved with purpose. Doc, real name Paul Brennan, brown hair buzzed to stubble, former Navy corpsman who'd served 2 tours in Afghanistan, pushed through the crowd with a first aid kit. "Hey, buddy." Doc's voice was soft, gentle, a voice trained to calm wounded men in combat zones. "I'm Doc. I'm going to check your injuries, okay? Can I do that?" Ethan nodded but wouldn't let go of Gunner. "That's fine. You hold on to Gunner. I'll work around you." Doc examined the boy carefully. Every few seconds his expression darkened. He lifted Ethan's shirt and went still. Gunner saw it too. Cigarette burns, at least a dozen. Some fresh, angry and red. Some old, faded to white scars. Doc's hands were steady. They were always steady. But Gunner could see the muscle in his jaw jumping. Finally, Doc pulled Gunner aside. His voice was barely a whisper. 3 cracked ribs. Hairline fracture in the left wrist. Old, maybe 6 months. Healed wrong because it was never set. Cigarette burns on his back and chest. Different stages of healing, which means this has been going on for a long time. Bruising around the throat consistent with manual strangulation. And Gunner, what? He's malnourished, severely. This kid hasn't been eating regularly. His body mass is way below where it should be for a 7-year-old. Gunner closed his eyes. How long? Years. This isn't a bad night. This is a bad life. Gunner walked back to Ethan. Someone had given the boy a plate of food, a burger, fries, a glass of milk. Ethan was eating like he hadn't seen food in days. Maybe he hadn't. "Slow down, kid. Nobody's taking it from you." Ethan looked up, his mouth full. "Sorry." "Don't be sorry. When's the last time you ate?" "Yesterday. Lunch at school. Derek said I didn't deserve dinner because I left my shoes by the door." Tank. 6'5", 300 pounds, bald head, A man whose nickname was earned, honestly, slammed his fist on the bar so hard the glasses jumped. "I'm going over there right now." "No." Roach's voice cut through the anger like a blade. "Nobody goes near that house. Not yet. We do this smart." "Smart? Look at that kid, Roach. Look at him." "I see him, and I want Robert, Derek, whoever this animal is, I want him in prison. Not in the hospital. Prison, where he stays for years. We handle this wrong, he walks. His lawyer calls it biker gang intimidation, and he walks." "That happened, Tank?" Tank went quiet, but the fury didn't leave his face. Roach sat across from Ethan. "Ethan, I need you to tell me about Derek. Everything." "He's my stepdad. He married my mom when I was 3. She died the next year. Derek got custody because there was nobody else. At first he was just mean, yelling, calling me names." "When did the hitting start?" "Right after Mom died. He said it was discipline. Then it got worse. He started using things. His belt, a wooden spoon, then his fists. Then," Ethan's voice dropped, "the cigarettes started last year. When he's really drunk, he holds my arm down and—" The room was so silent that Gunnar could hear the clock ticking on the wall. "Did you ever tell anyone?" "I told my teacher, Mrs. Park, in 2nd grade. She called Derek and told him what I said." "She called your stepdad instead of child services." "Yeah, and that night Derek broke my wrist. He twisted it until it snapped. He said if I ever told anyone again, he'd kill me. And I believed him, because he almost did." Roach leaned forward. "Did your wrist ever get treated?" "No. Derek wrapped it in a bandage and told me to tell everyone I fell off my bike. And people believe that. People always believe Derek. He's on the town council. He coaches football. He goes to church every Sunday. Everyone thinks he's the best guy in Ridgehaven." Ethan looked around at the bikers surrounding him. 107 men in leather vests, tattoos, beards, scars. "You know what's funny?" Ethan said quietly. "Everyone's scared of you guys. My teacher says you're criminals. The pastor says you're sinners. The news says you're dangerous. But none of you have ever hurt me. The man they all love? He's the one who burns me with cigarettes." Nobody spoke. Chains, the club's tech specialist, early 30s, lean, brown hair, came back from his phone call. "My cousin Rita's coming. She's a deputy. Off duty, but she said she'll be here in 20 minutes. "Good. Doc, write up everything you found. Measurements, photographs, all of it." "Already on it." Gunnar sat next to Ethan while Doc photographed every injury. The boy winced, but didn't cry. He'd stopped crying a long time ago. That bothered Gunnar more than anything else. "Hey, Ethan." "Yeah?" "It's okay to cry, you know." "Derek says crying is for weaklings. Derek's wrong about a lot of things." Ethan was quiet for a minute. "Gunnar?" "Yeah?" "Why are you helping me?" Gunnar looked at the wall, then at the floor, then at this broken kid sitting next to him in dinosaur pajamas. "Because when I was 6 years old, my old man used to beat me too. Worse than what happened to you. He broke my collarbone, cracked my skull once, burned me with an iron. And you know how many people helped me?" "How many?" "0. Not one. I showed up at school with black eyes and broken bones for 8 years, and everybody looked the other way. Teachers, neighbors, coaches. They all saw it. Nobody did a damn thing." "What happened?" "I ran away when I was 14, lived on the streets for a while, almost died. Then I met the club. They took me in, gave me a family. The family my blood never was." "Is that why you're helping me? Because nobody helped you?" "Yeah, kid, that's exactly why. Because I know what it feels like to be 7 years old and think nobody in the whole world gives a damn about you. And I swore that if I ever met a kid going through what I went through, I'd be the person who showed up. So here I am." Ethan leaned against Gunnar's arm. "I'm glad I found you." "Me too, kid." At 12:47 a.m., Roach's phone rang. He answered on speaker. "This is Derek Lawson. I know my stepson is there. I'm coming to get him." The room went cold. "Come ahead." Roach said calmly. We'll be here. If you don't hand him over, I'm calling the police. I'll have you arrested for kidnapping. Go ahead and call them. Make sure to explain why your 7-year-old stepson ran away with cracked ribs, cigarette burns, and strangulation marks on his throat. Silence on the line. Ethan is a troubled child. He hurts himself. He makes up stories for attention. A 7-year-old burned himself with cigarettes on his own back.
That's your story?
You don't know what you're dealing with. I have friends in this town. The mayor, the police chief, half the town council. I'll bury you. Come try. This isn't over. You're right about that. This is just beginning. Garrick hung up. Roach looked around the room. He's going to use every connection he has. Mayor, police, council. He'll turn them all against us. We need to be ready. Tank cracked his knuckles. Let him bring the mayor. Let him bring the governor. We've got 107 men who aren't leaving that kid's side. Nobody leaves, Roach confirmed. Nobody goes home tonight. We rotate watches. 4 men on the doors, 4 on the parking lot. Gunner doesn't leave Ethan's side, not for a second. At 1:15 a.m., Deputy Rita Vance arrived. Late 20s, sharp eyes. She walked in, saw Ethan, and stopped dead. Oh my God! She knelt in front of the boy. Ethan, my name's Rita. I'm a deputy sheriff. Do you remember me? Ethan nodded slowly. You came to our house once. Last year. Derek told you I fell down the stairs. Rita's face went pale. Yeah, he did tell me that. And you believed him. The words hit Rita like a slap. She swallowed hard. I shouldn't have. I'm sorry, Ethan. I'm so sorry. It's okay. Everybody believes Derek. Rita stood and turned to Roach. Her eyes were wet, but her voice was steady. I've responded to 3 calls at that address in 2 years. Every time Lawson talked his way out of it. Charming, cooperative, had an explanation for everything. My sergeant told me to drop it, said Lawson was a respected member of the community and we shouldn't harass him. Your sergeant told you to stop investigating child abuse? Yeah, Sergeant Bill Harding. He plays golf with Derek every Saturday. Roach nodded slowly. So the police are compromised. At least partially. Chief Bradley is honest, but he trusts Harding, and Harding protects Derek. Then we go around them. Social services, judge, state police if we have to. Rita pulled out her phone. I know a social worker, Angela Reeves, county office. She's tough, she's honest, and she doesn't care who your friends are. I'll call her first thing in the morning. Call her now. It's 1 a.m. And there's a kid in my bar with cigarette burns who hasn't eaten a real meal in God knows how long. Call her now. Rita called. Angela Reeves answered on the 4th ring, groggy but alert. Rita explained the situation. There was a long pause. I'll be there by 7 a.m., Angela said. Don't let anyone near that child. And Rita, document everything. Photos, timestamps, his exact words, everything. Already done. Good. And tell whoever's protecting him, thank you. After the call, the bar settled into a tense quiet. Most of the bikers sat in small groups, talking low. Some played cards. Nobody drank. Nobody joked. The mood was too dark for that. Gunner found a blanket and wrapped it around Ethan, who was fighting sleep on the couch. Gunner? Yeah, kid. What if Derek comes here tonight? Then he'll have to get through 107 men to reach you. But what if he brings the police? Then we'll deal with the police. What if the police take me back to him? Gunner knelt down so he was eye level with the boy. Ethan, look at me. Nobody is taking you back to that house. Not Derek, not the police, not the mayor, not God himself. You are staying right here, and I am staying right next to you. Understand? You promise? I promise. Derek promised my mom he'd take care of me. Promises don't always mean anything. The words hit Gunner like a freight train. A 7-year-old who'd already learned that promises were worthless. Mine do, Gunner said quietly. Mine always do. Ethan's eyes searched his face for a long moment. Then the boy nodded. Okay, I believe you. Within minutes, Ethan was asleep, his small body curled into a ball under the blanket, one hand still gripping the edge of Gunner's vest. Even in sleep, he wouldn't let go. Gunner sat beside him. He didn't move. He didn't sleep. He watched the door and listened to the boy breathe, and thought about his own father, and the iron, and the collarbone, and all those years when nobody came. Outside, the night was quiet, but Gunner knew it wouldn't last. Derek Lawson was out there somewhere, drunk, furious, connected, dangerous, and he wanted his stepson back, not because he loved the boy, but because Ethan was his property, his punching bag, his outlet, the thing he broke when the world broke him. Men like Derek didn't give up. They escalated. Gunner looked at the sleeping child beside him and tightened his jaw. Let him come. Let him bring the whole damn town. 107 Hell's Angels sat between Derek Lawson and this boy, and not one of them was going anywhere. At 4:17 a.m., Ethan screamed in his sleep, a raw, animal sound that brought 6 bikers running. Gunner already had his hand on the boy's shoulder. Hey, it's me. It's Gunner. You're safe. Ethan's eyes flew open, wild with terror. For a moment, he didn't know where he was. Then he saw Gunner's face, the tattoos, the leather, the bar. I dreamed he found me. He didn't. I'm right here. Don't leave. I'm not going anywhere. Ethan gripped Gunner's hand. His small fingers wrapped around 2 of Gunner's massive ones. Gunner? Yeah? Thank you for being the person who showed up. Gunner squeezed the boy's hand gently. Go back to sleep, kid. Ethan closed his eyes. His grip didn't loosen, and Gunner sat there in the dark, holding a child's hand, standing guard against monsters he knew all too well. Outside, the first gray light of dawn crept across Ridgehaven, Tennessee. The storm was just beginning. Dawn hit Ridgehaven like a slap. Gray light pushing through dirty windows, the smell of old coffee and leather. And somewhere in the back of Iron Creek Tavern, a 7-year-old boy slept with his fingers still wrapped around a biker's hand. Gunner hadn't moved in 4 hours. His back ached, his legs were numb, but Ethan's grip hadn't loosened, and Gunner wasn't about to be the one who pulled away first. At 6:48 a.m., Roach walked in with 2 cups of coffee. He handed one to Gunner and looked at the sleeping boy. How is he? Nightmare at 4. Screamed so loud half the club came running. Other than that, out cold. He eat? Destroyed a burger and fries last night like he hadn't seen food in a week, because he probably hadn't. Roach sipped his coffee. Angela Reeves will be here at 7. Rita's coming back too. And Gunner, Derek made calls all night. How do you know? Because Mayor Frank Goodwin called me at 5:30 a.m. asking me to, quote, resolve this quietly, unquote. Told me Derek is a pillar of the community and this is all a misunderstanding. What'd you say? I said, come look at the cigarette burns on a 7-year-old's back and tell me it's a misunderstanding. What'd he say? He hung up. Gunner looked at Ethan. The boy's face was swollen worse today. The bruising had deepened overnight, turning his left eye socket dark purple, almost black. The fingerprints on his throat stood out like a brand. Derek's going to come hard at us, Gunner said. I know. Mayor, police, council, church. He's going to mobilize every connection he has. I know that too. And when all that fails, he's going to come himself. Roach's jaw tightened. Then we'll be ready. At 7 sharp, Angela Reeves walked through the door. Mid-30s, brown hair pulled back tight, no makeup, no jewelry. She carried a leather briefcase and the expression of someone who'd seen the worst of humanity and kept showing up anyway. She stopped when she saw Ethan. For 3 seconds, the professional mask slipped. Gunner saw it, the flash of horror, the tightening around her eyes, the way her hand gripped the briefcase strap until her knuckles went white. Then the mask came back. I'm Angela Reeves, County Social Services. Who's been with him since last night? I have, Gunner said. Has he eaten? Last night and this morning. Toast and eggs 20 minutes ago. Medical assessment? Doc, our medic, did a full workup. 3 cracked ribs, old wrist fracture that healed wrong, cigarette burns, strangulation bruising, severe malnourishment. Angela opened her briefcase and pulled out forms. I need to talk to him. Alone. No. Angela looked at Gunnar. Excuse me? He won't talk to you alone. He doesn't trust strangers. He barely trusts me. You want him to open up, I stay in the room. That's not protocol. Protocol is what let this kid get burned with cigarettes for a year. I'm staying. Angela stared at him for a long moment. Then she nodded once. Fine, but you don't speak unless I ask you to. They woke Ethan gently. The boy's eyes snapped open with that same wild terror, scanning the room for threats before finding Gunnar's face and settling. Morning, kid. This is Angela. She's a social worker. She's here to help. Ethan looked at Angela with the flat, assessing gaze of a child who'd learned that adults were dangerous. Are you going to send me back? Angela pulled a chair close and sat. Ethan, I'm not going to lie to you. I don't lie to kids. Here's the truth. I'm going to ask you some hard questions. Your answers are going to help me make sure you're safe. Can you do that? Will Gunnar stay? Yes. Okay. What followed was 40 minutes that gutted everyone in earshot. Angela asked calm, precise questions, and Ethan answered them with the matter-of-fact honesty of a child who'd stopped hoping anyone would believe him. He told her about the hitting, the kicking, the belt, the wooden spoon that broke across his back on his 6th birthday because he spilled juice on the carpet. He told her about the cigarettes, how Derek would hold his arm down with one hand and press the lit end into his skin with the other. How he'd say, "This is what happens to boys who don't listen." How Ethan had learned to count the seconds, 3 seconds for a minor offense, 5 for something bigger, 10 when Derek was really drunk. He told her about the food, how Derek would lock the kitchen at night, how Ethan learned to steal crackers from the pantry and hide them under his mattress, how some weeks the only real meals he got were school lunches. He told her about the wrist, how Derek had grabbed it and twisted until the snap echoed off the walls, how he'd wrapped it himself with an ace bandage from the bathroom while Derek watched TV in the next room, how he'd told everyone at school he fell off his bike, and everyone believed it because why wouldn't they? He told her about Mrs. Park, the teacher he'd trusted, the one who'd called Derek instead of child services, the broken wrist that followed. After that, Ethan said quietly, I stopped telling people. Angela's pen had stopped moving. She was just listening now. Her eyes were bright and hard. Ethan, why did you run last night? What was different about last night? The hammer. He never used a hammer before. He came into my room and he had it in his hand and he said, tonight's the night. He said he was going to fix everything. He said when I was gone, his life would go back to normal. What did you do? He swung at me and missed, hit the wall next to my head. Then he swung again and caught my shoulder. Ethan pulled his shirt aside. A deep purple bruise the size of a baseball sat on his left shoulder. Then he fell down because he was so drunk. And I ran. I ran and didn't stop. Angela closed her notebook. She looked at Gunnar, then at Roach, who was standing in the doorway. I'm filing emergency removal papers within the hour. I'm also filing a referral to the district attorney for criminal prosecution. And I'm requesting an emergency protective order. How long? Roach asked. The paperwork takes 48 hours minimum to process through a judge. 48 hours is a long time when a man with a hammer knows where his kid is. I know. That's why I need to ask you something uncomfortable. Can Ethan stay here? With your club? I can't officially place him. Regulations don't allow it. But unofficially, off the record, this is the safest place for him right now. He's not leaving, Gunnar said. Period. Then we're agreed. Angela packed her briefcase and stood. I'll be back this afternoon with the paperwork. In the meantime, no one from Derek's side gets near this child. And everything gets documented. Every visitor, every phone call, every threat. Understood? Understood. Angela left. 10 minutes later, Rita Vance arrived in civilian clothes with a laptop and a grim expression. "We've got a problem," she said, setting the laptop on the bar. "I ran Derek Lawson through the system this morning. He's got no record, not even a parking ticket, clean as a preacher's collar. But I dug deeper, called some people I trust. And Derek Lawson moved to Ridgehaven 8 years ago from Bakersfield, California. Before that, he lived in Portland, Oregon. Before that, Tucson, Arizona. So he moves around. Yeah, and here's why." Rita turned the laptop to face them. "In Tucson, he was married to a woman named Jennifer Lawson. They had a daughter, 3 years old. Jennifer filed for divorce, citing domestic abuse. 2 months later, she dropped the charges. 6 months after that, she died." The room went silent. "How?" Roach asked. "Fell down the stairs. That's what the coroner's report says. Derek got a life insurance payout and moved to Portland with the daughter." "Where's the daughter now?" Rita's face changed. Something dark crossed her eyes. "That's the thing. I can't find her. Derek moved to Ridgehaven alone. There's no record of the daughter after Portland. No school enrollment, no medical records, no nothing. She just vanished." Nobody breathed. "How old would she be now?" Gunnar asked. 11. Her name was Lily." Gunnar looked at Ethan, who was eating cereal on the couch, oblivious. Then he looked at Roach. Roach's expression was carved from stone. "You're telling me Derek Lawson might have killed his first wife and his daughter, and then married Ethan's mother and started the whole thing over?" "I'm telling you it's possible. And I'm telling you that if Ethan stays in that house, he might end up like Lily, wherever Lily is." The weight of those words pressed down on every man in the room. "Rita, can you get the Tucson and Portland files?" "I'm working on it, but it's going to take time. Different jurisdictions, different departments, everybody moves slow." "We don't have slow. Derek's making calls. The mayor's already leaning on us. How long before the police chief shows up?" As if on cue, the door opened. Police Chief Tom Bradley walked in, mid-50s, gray mustache, tired eyes. He looked like a man who'd been woken up too early and told things he didn't want to hear. "Roach, we need to talk." "Come on in, Chief. Coffee?" "This isn't a social call. I got a complaint from Derek Lawson. He says you're holding his stepson against his will. He says the boy has behavioral problems and ran away from home, which he does regularly. He wants him back." Roach gestured to Ethan. "Take a look at him." Bradley walked over to the couch. Ethan looked up at the uniform and flinched. Hard. He scrambled backward, pressing himself against the armrest. "Hey, easy," Gunnar said. "He's okay. He's the police chief. Derek said the police would bring me back. He said you'd believe him because everybody believes him." Bradley crouched down. He looked at the black eye, the split lip, the throat bruises. "Son, can I see those marks on your neck?" Ethan tilted his chin up. The fingerprints were unmistakable. 4 fingers and a thumb pressed into the flesh of a 7-year-old's throat. Bradley stood up slowly. He walked back to Roach without saying a word. He ran his hand over his face. He let out a long breath. "I've known Derek Lawson for 5 years. We've had beers together. He coached my nephew in football. And he's been torturing that child the whole time. I need to talk to the boy, officially, with the social worker present. Angela Reeves filed emergency papers this morning. She'll be back this afternoon. You can interview him then." "Fair enough. But Roach, I need to tell you something. Derek called in favors all night. Mayor Goodwin is on his side. Councilman Webb is on his side. Sergeant Harding is on his side. Half this town thinks you're the villains here. And the other half?" Bradley paused. "The other half is starting to remember things they should have spoken up about a long time ago." "Which half are you on, Chief?" Bradley looked at Ethan. The boy was watching them with those flat, ancient eyes. Eyes that had no business being in a 7-year-old's face. "I'm on his side," Bradley said quietly, "but I need evidence. Real evidence. Not just bruises that a good lawyer can explain away." "Rita Vance is pulling files from Tucson and Portland. Derek's got a history." Bradley's eyebrows rose. "What kind of history?" "The kind where wives and daughters disappear. Bradley went still. For a full 10 seconds, he didn't move. Then he pulled out his notepad. Tell me everything. At noon, the town started buzzing. Word had spread. The Hells Angels were harboring Derek Lawson's stepson. Half of Ridgehaven saw it as a kidnapping. The other half wasn't so sure. Mrs. Dorothy Keller called the tavern at 12:15 p.m. She was 72 years old and lived next door to Derek Lawson. I've heard that boy screaming at night for 2 years, she said, her voice shaking. I called the police once. They sent that sergeant, Harding. He talked to Derek for 5 minutes on the porch and left. Nothing happened. I've been sick with guilt ever since. What can I do? Would you be willing to testify? Roach asked. In court? Against Derek? Yes. A long pause. Yes, God help me, yes. That boy deserves at least one person who tells the truth. She was the first. By 2 o'clock, 3 more had called. Coach Ray Dawson, who'd seen bruises on Ethan at every practice, and bought Derek's excuses. A neighbor named Phil Garrett, who'd heard crashes and screaming through the walls on weeknight after weeknight. And a woman named Susan Cho, who worked at the pharmacy and had filled Derek's prescriptions for sedatives. Sedatives prescribed to a 7-year-old by a doctor who'd never examined him. He was drugging the kid, Rita said when she heard, sedating him to keep him quiet. Gunner's hands curled into fists. He was sitting next to Ethan, who was reading a comic book that Tank had bought from the gas station down the street. Ethan, yeah? Did Derek ever give you medicine? Pills that made you sleepy? Ethan didn't look up from the comic. Every night, little white pills. He said they were vitamins, but they made my head feel fuzzy, and I couldn't stay awake. Sometimes I'd wake up with new bruises, and I wouldn't remember how I got them. Gunner stood up and walked to the bathroom. He closed the door. He gripped the sink with both hands and stared at himself in the mirror. He was shaking, not from fear, from rage so deep and so old it had roots that went all the way back to Alabama, back to his father, back to the iron, back to being 6 years old and having nobody. He ran cold water over his face. He breathed. He went back out. Ethan looked up. Are you okay? Yeah, kid, I'm fine. You don't look fine. I just needed a minute. Derek used to say that too, right before he hit me. Gunner knelt in front of the boy. Ethan, I need you to hear me. I am never going to hit you. None of these men are ever going to hit you. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. You understand? Ethan studied his face the way a bomb technician studies a wire. Carefully, critically, looking for the lie. Okay, Ethan said finally. I believe you. At 3:15 p.m., Derek Lawson showed up. He wasn't alone. Mayor Frank Goodwin stood at his right shoulder. Councilman Webb stood at his left. And behind them, Sergeant Bill Harding in full uniform with his hand resting on his service weapon. 4 men. The power structure of Ridgehaven, Tennessee. Standing in the parking lot of Iron Creek Tavern, staring down 107 Hells Angels. Roach walked out first. Gunner stayed inside with Ethan, but positioned himself where he could see through the window and hear through the open door. Gentlemen, Roach said. Derek stepped forward. He was wearing a pressed button-down shirt, clean-shaven, clear-eyed, the picture of a concerned father. The man who'd swung a hammer at a child's head 12 hours ago looked like he'd stepped out of a church bulletin. I want my son back. He's not your son, he's your stepson, and he's staying here. Sergeant Harding, this man is holding my child illegally. I want him arrested. Harding stepped forward, hand still on his weapon. Roach, I need you to produce the child. Not happening. That's not a request. I don't care what it is. That boy has injuries consistent with years of systematic abuse. A county social worker has filed emergency removal papers. A deputy sheriff has documented everything. You want to arrest me for protecting a child from a man who swings hammers at 7-year-olds? Go ahead. Make sure the cameras are rolling. Harding hesitated. He looked at Derek. Derek's jaw clenched. Mayor Goodwin stepped in with his politician's voice. Let's all calm down. This is a misunderstanding. Derek is a valued member of our community. The boy has a history of behavioral issues. I'm sure we can resolve this. Come inside, Roach said. Look at the kid's injuries, then tell me it's a misunderstanding. Goodwin glanced at Derek, who gave a barely perceptible shake of his head. That won't be necessary, we just need… I'll go inside, Harding interrupted. Everyone looked at him. If the kid's fine, this is over. If not, I need to see for myself. Derek's composure flickered. Just for a second. A flash of something in his eyes that Roach recognized immediately. Fear. Of course, Derek said smoothly. I have nothing to hide. Harding walked inside. He found Ethan on the couch. The boy saw the uniform and pressed himself into the cushions. Hey, buddy, I'm Sergeant Harding. I just need to… I know who you are. You came to our house. Derek gave you a beer on the porch and you left. Harding's face reddened. I'm going to need to see your injuries. Ethan pulled up his shirt without a word. The cigarette burns, the rib bruising, the hammer mark on his shoulder. Harding stared. His hand dropped away from his weapon. Turn around, Doc said from across the room. Ethan turned. More burns on his back, old scars, new wounds, a map of 3 years of torture. Harding walked back outside. He stood in front of Derek Lawson and the mayor and the councilman, and he took his hand off his weapon. I'm not arresting anyone today, Harding said. His voice was strange, hollow. And I'm requesting Chief Bradley take over this case immediately. Sergeant, Derek started. Don't say another word to me. Harding walked to his patrol car. He sat in the driver's seat. He didn't start the engine. He just sat there. Derek's mask cracked, just slightly. The corners of his mouth twitched. His hands, which had been folded calmly in front of him, clenched into fists. This isn't over, he said. People keep saying that, Roach replied. And they're right, it's not over. Not until you're in prison, where you belong. Mayor Goodwin grabbed Derek's arm and pulled him toward the car. We're leaving, now. They left. But as Derek climbed into the passenger seat, he looked back at the tavern. And the expression on his face wasn't anger, it was calculation. Inside, Gunnar held Ethan's shoulder as the boy trembled. He was here. He was right outside. And he left, because he couldn't get to you. He'll come back. He always comes back. Then we'll be here, every time. That evening, Angela Reeves returned with paperwork and news. Emergency hearing is set for Thursday morning. Judge Catherine Mercer is presiding. She's tough, she's fair, and she doesn't care about politics. But Derek's lawyer is Preston Cole. Roach cursed under his breath. Cole's the best defense attorney in Eastern Tennessee. He's also the most expensive, which tells me Derek's got money, connections, or both. Cole is going to paint your club as dangerous criminals who've manipulated a vulnerable child. He's going to make Derek look like a saint. Let him try. I need witnesses, people who saw signs and can testify. We've got 4 so far, working on more. Get me 10, get me 12, get me so many that Cole can't discredit all of them. At 11 p.m., Chains came running from the back room where he'd set up his laptop. His face was white. Roach, Gunnar, you need to see this. They gathered around the screen. Chains had been digging through old records, newspaper archives, public databases. I found Lily, Derek's daughter from Tucson. Where? She's dead. Died in Portland, Oregon 6 years ago. She was 5. Official cause of death was accidental drowning in the bathtub. Nobody spoke. The police investigated. Derek was the only adult home. He said he left her in the bath for 2 minutes to answer the phone. By the time he came back, she was underwater. The medical examiner noted some old fractures and bruising, but ruled the death accidental. Case closed. Gunnar felt the room tilt. He braced his hand on the bar. He killed her. He killed his own daughter. There's more. 3 months after Lily's death, Derek collected a life insurance payout of $200,000. Same thing he did after his first wife died. He collects people, hurts them, and cashes out. Roach turned to Rita, who had stayed late.
Can this be reopened? If I can get Portland PD to look at it with fresh eyes and the new pattern of abuse with Ethan, yes, it's possible.
Do it. Tonight. Rita made calls. Chains kept digging. Angela updated her filings. And in the back room, Ethan slept. Dreamless this time. Gunnar sat beside him in the dark, one hand on the boy's back, feeling him breathe. Every inhale was a victory. Every exhale was proof that they'd gotten to him in time. Because Lily hadn't been so lucky. Jennifer Lawson hadn't been so lucky. Sarah Marshall, Ethan's mother, who died in a car accident that suddenly didn't seem so accidental, she hadn't been so lucky either. Derek Lawson wasn't just an abuser, he was a killer. And he'd been doing it for years, moving from city to city, hiding behind charm and church attendance and community involvement. And everywhere he went, someone died. But not this time. Not this kid. Gunnar looked at Ethan's small face, peaceful for once, and made a promise he intended to keep with every fiber of his being. Whatever it took, whatever it cost, however long it lasted, Derek Lawson was never going to touch this boy again. Thursday morning came too fast and not fast enough. Ethan hadn't slept. Gunnar knew because he hadn't slept either. They'd sat together on the couch in the back room, the boy pressed against the biker's side, staring at nothing while the hours crawled. At 6 a.m., Gunnar handed Ethan a clean shirt. One of the bikers had driven 40 minutes to the nearest Walmart at midnight to buy the kid clothes that fit. Jeans, sneakers, a blue button-down. "You look sharp, kid." Ethan stared at himself. "I look like Derek makes me dress for church." Gunnar knelt down and rolled the sleeves up to the elbows, untucked the shirt. "Better?" "Better." Roach appeared. He trimmed his beard, put on a clean shirt under his vest. He looked at Ethan with those ice blue eyes. "How you feeling?" "Scared." "Good. Scared means you understand what's happening. Scared is smart. But here's what I need you to remember. You walk in there, you tell the truth. That's all. Don't try to be brave. Don't try to sound older than you are. Just be Ethan. Can you do that?" "What if his lawyer makes me look like a liar?" "Then you look that lawyer in the eye and tell him exactly what Derek did to you. Every burn, every hit, every word. The truth is the hardest thing to break, Ethan. That's why people like Derek hate it so much." Ethan nodded. His hands were shaking. Gunnar took both of them in one of his. "I'll be right behind you the whole time. Promise?" "You know I don't break those." They loaded up at 7. 107 motorcycles fired their engines simultaneously, and the sound shook the windows of every building on the block. Gunnar put Ethan in a truck with Angela Reeves and Rita Vance, then mounted his Harley and took position directly behind them. The convoy stretched for 3 blocks. Cars pulled over. People stood on sidewalks and stared. 107 Hells Angels rolling through downtown Ridgehaven at 7:30 on a Thursday morning, following a pickup truck carrying a 7-year-old boy to the fight of his life. The courthouse parking lot couldn't hold them all. Bikes lined both sides of Main Street for 2 blocks in every direction. By 8:15, the sidewalk in front of the courthouse was a wall of leather vests and crossed arms. Inside, it was standing room only. On the left side sat Derek Lawson. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than most people in Ridgehaven made in a month. His hair was combed. His eyes were clear. He'd been crying, or had done an excellent job of making it look that way. His lawyer, Preston Cole, sat beside him, silver-haired, calm, a legal predator in a $3,000 suit. Behind Derek sat Mayor Goodwin, Councilman Webb, and a carefully selected row of supporters, church members, business associates, Little League parents. All clean, all respectable, all ready to swear that Derek Lawson was the finest man they'd ever known. On the right side sat Ethan. He looked impossibly small between Gunnar and Angela. Behind them, filling every available seat and lining the walls shoulder to shoulder, stood the Hells Angels. Silent, still, a wall of ink and leather in barely controlled fury. Judge Catherine Mercer entered, 62 years old, steel gray hair cut short, reading glasses perched on her nose. She scanned the courtroom, pausing briefly at the sea of leather vests, then sat. This is an emergency custody hearing regarding the minor child Ethan Marshall, currently age 7. The petitioner is the state of Tennessee, represented by social worker Angela Reeves and the county attorney's office. The respondent is Derek Lawson, legal guardian, represented by Preston Cole. Mr. Cole, you may begin. Preston Cole rose like he owned the room, and in a way, he did. He'd practiced family law for 30 years and hadn't lost a custody case in the last 12. Your Honor, this case is tragically simple. A grieving child, confused and angry after the death of his mother, has been manipulated by a criminal organization into making false accusations against the only parent he has left. Cole turned toward the gallery. He didn't look at Ethan. He looked at the Hells Angels. Derek Lawson is a deacon, a coach, a town council member, a man who stepped up when Sarah Marshall died and raised her son as his own. And now, because a motorcycle gang decided to play hero, this loving father is being treated like a criminal. He spent 45 minutes building his case. He called Mayor Goodwin, who testified that Derek was the most responsible, caring man in Ridgehaven. He called Pastor David Wells, who said Derek prays for that boy every single day and has never shown an ounce of violence. He called 3 Little League parents who described Derek as patient, gentle, dedicated. Then Cole called Derek to the stand. Derek's performance was flawless. His voice cracked at exactly the right moments. His eyes glistened with precisely calibrated tears. He described the agony of losing Sarah, the struggle of raising a boy with severe behavioral issues, the pain of watching Ethan hurt himself and then blame others. Ethan's been through trauma, Derek said, dabbing his eyes with a handkerchief. Losing his mother broke something in him. He acts out, he hurts himself, and then he tells stories to explain the injuries. I've tried everything, therapy, counseling, patience, but he's angry at the world, and now these people have taken advantage of his anger. Mr. Lawson, Cole asked softly, did you ever strike your stepson? Never, not once. I love that boy more than my own life. Did you ever burn him with cigarettes? The thought makes me sick. Those burns, Ethan does that to himself. I've caught him doing it. It's a form of self-harm. His therapist can confirm it. And the night in question, Thursday night? Derek's voice broke beautifully. I came home from work. Ethan was already agitated. He'd had a bad day at school. I tried to calm him down, but he flew into a rage. He threw things. He hit himself. He ran out the front door before I could stop him. I searched for hours. I was terrified. And then I find out he's being held by the Hells Angels in a bar, and they won't give him back. Several people in the courtroom were crying. A woman in the second row blew her nose loudly. Judge Mercer's expression gave away nothing. Angela stood. Your Honor, may I cross-examine? Go ahead. Angela walked toward Derek with the calm precision of a surgeon approaching an operating table. Mr. Lawson, you said Ethan hurts himself, burns himself with cigarettes. Yes, it's heartbreaking. Can you explain how a 7-year-old manages to burn the center of his own back, between the shoulder blades, an area he physically cannot reach? Derek blinked. He's very flexible. Flexible enough to hold a lit cigarette behind his back and press it into his own skin with enough force to leave third-degree burns? At age 7? Children are surprisingly... Let me ask you about the wrist. You told Ethan's school that he fell off his bicycle, but the X-ray, taken 2 days ago at Ridgehaven Medical, shows a spiral fracture. Do you know what causes a spiral fracture, Mr. Lawson? I'm not a doctor. Twisting. A spiral fracture is caused by one person grabbing another person's limb and twisting until the bone breaks. It is physically impossible to sustain this type of fracture from falling off a bicycle. It requires a second person applying rotational force. Derek's composure flickered. He must have caught it in the wheel spokes.
The fracture is 18 months old and was never professionally treated. You never took your stepson to a doctor for a broken bone. Why? I didn't realize it was broken. He said it didn't hurt that bad. A 7-year-old told you his broken wrist didn't hurt, and you believed him? Ethan is very tough. He doesn't always... Your Honor, I'd like to call Dr. Paul Brennan to the stand. Doc walked forward. He'd traded his leather vest for a collared shirt, but the tattoos on his arms were still visible. Cole objected immediately. This witness is a member of the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club. His testimony is inherently biased. Doctor, Brennan served as a Navy corpsman for 8 years with 2 tours in Afghanistan and holds a current EMT certification, Angela replied. His medical qualifications are not in question. I'll allow it, Judge Mercer said. Continue. Doc took the stand. His voice was steady, clinical, devastating. I examined Ethan Marshall at approximately 1 a.m. last Friday. I documented 3 cracked ribs, a healed spiral fracture of the left wrist, 12 cigarette burns in various stages of healing, some as old as a year, some less than 2 weeks, manual strangulation bruising on the throat, a blunt force contusion on the left shoulder consistent with a hammer strike, and severe malnourishment. The child's body weight is in the 3rd percentile for his age. In your professional assessment, Angela asked, are these injuries consistent with self-harm? Absolutely not. The locations, patterns, and severity of these injuries are textbook indicators of prolonged child abuse by an adult. Specifically, the strangulation marks require an adult-sized hand. The cigarette burns on the child's back are in locations he cannot reach. And the rib fractures are consistent with being kicked by someone significantly larger. Thank you, Dr. Brennan. Cole cross-examined aggressively. Mr. Brennan, you're not a licensed physician, correct? Correct. I'm a certified... So you're not qualified to make diagnostic conclusions. I'm qualified to recognize injuries I've seen hundreds of times in combat zones and emergency rooms. You're a biker. You have a criminal record. I have a misdemeanor from 2009. I also have a Navy Cross for pulling 3 wounded Marines out of an ambush in Helmand Province. Would you like to compare resumes? A ripple went through the courtroom. Even Judge Mercer's mouth twitched. Angela called her next witness, Mrs. Dorothy Keller, 72 years old, hands shaking, voice thin but determined. I live next door to Derek Lawson. I've heard that boy screaming at night for 2 years, not playing, not tantrums, screaming like an animal in pain. I called the police once. Sergeant Harding came out, talked to Derek on the porch for 5 minutes and left. Nothing happened. I should have done more. I should have broken that door down myself. Thank you, Mrs. Keller. Angela called Coach Ray Dawson, former military, broad shoulders. He couldn't look at Derek. I coached Ethan in youth football for a year. Every practice, every game, that boy had new bruises. I asked Derek about it. He always had an answer. Rough play, fell off his bike, tripped on the stairs. I wanted to believe him because the alternative was too ugly. I was a coward. I failed that kid. Angela called Susan Cho from the pharmacy. Derek Lawson has been filling prescriptions for diazepam, Valium, prescribed to Ethan Marshall by a Dr. Richard Nolan. I looked into it. Dr. Nolan is a general practitioner in Nashville. He's never physically examined Ethan. He wrote the prescriptions based on phone consultations with Derek, who described the child as having severe anxiety and insomnia. He was drugging the boy? Judge Mercer asked, her composure cracking for the first time. 5 milligrams of Valium nightly for a 7-year-old. That dosage would render a child essentially unconscious. The courtroom erupted. Judge Mercer banged her gavel 3 times. Order! Order! Cole was on his feet. Objection, this testimony is hearsay. The prescribing physician isn't present to... I have the pharmacy records right here, Your Honor, Angela said, holding up a folder. And the phone records showing Dr. Nolan received 17 calls from Derek Lawson's cell phone over the past 14 months. Judge Mercer took the folder.
She studied it. Her jaw tightened visibly. Mr. Cole, I'd suggest you speak with your client. Cole leaned over to Derek. They whispered furiously. Derek's face was changing. The grief-stricken father was dissolving. Something harder, colder, was surfacing underneath. Angela looked at Ethan. Are you ready? Ethan nodded. He slid off his chair and walked to the witness stand. His feet didn't reach the floor. He placed his hand on the Bible and was sworn in. Ethan, Angela said gently, I need you to tell Judge Mercer what happened Thursday night. Ethan looked at the judge. He looked at Derek. He looked at Gunnar, who nodded once. I got home from school. Derek was drinking. He'd been fired from the bank that morning. He was sitting in his chair with a bottle, and when I walked in, he threw the bottle at me. It missed. He said everything was my fault. My mom dying, him losing his job. Everything. What happened next? He went to the garage. I heard him in there. When he came back, he had the hammer, the claw hammer from the toolbox. He walked into my room and he said, Tonight's the night, Ethan. He said he was going to fix everything. What did he do with the hammer? He swung it at my head. I moved. It hit the wall. He swung again and hit my shoulder. Then he grabbed my throat and squeezed. He squeezed until I couldn't breathe and everything started going dark. Then he let go and fell down because he was so drunk. And I ran. Where did you run? I didn't know where. I just ran. I saw the lights from the bar and the motorcycles, and I ran to the biggest, scariest person I could find because I thought maybe a scary person would protect me from a scarier person. Are you afraid of the Hells Angels? No. They're the first people in my whole life who believe me. Are you afraid of your stepfather? Yes. I'm afraid he'll kill me, like he killed Lily. The courtroom went dead silent. Cole jumped up. Objection. Move to strike. The child is making unsubstantiated. Who is Lily? Judge Mercer asked. Angela stepped forward. Your Honor, we've uncovered evidence that Derek Lawson had a daughter from a previous marriage in Tucson, Arizona. The child, Lily Lawson, age 5, died in Portland, Oregon, 6 years ago. The official ruling was accidental drowning. However, the medical examiner noted old fractures and bruising consistent with abuse. Derek Lawson was the sole caretaker at the time of death. He collected a $200,000 life insurance payout. The silence in the courtroom was absolute. You could hear the fluorescent lights humming. Furthermore, Angela continued, Derek Lawson's first wife, Jennifer Lawson, died in Tucson from a fall down the stairs. He collected a $150,000 life insurance payout. He then moved to Portland. After Lily's death, he moved to Ridgehaven, where he married Sarah Marshall. Sarah Marshall died in a single-vehicle car accident 14 months after the wedding. Derek Lawson was the beneficiary of her life insurance policy, $100,000. Your Honor, this is outrageous, Cole sputtered. None of this has been adjudicated. My client was never charged. 3 women and children connected to your client are dead, Mr. Cole, Judge Mercer said quietly. I'd suggest you let the record reflect that. Derek was gripping the table so hard his knuckles had gone white. The mask was completely gone now. His eyes darted around the room, calculating, assessing, the eyes of a cornered animal. This is lies, Derek said, his voice rising. All of it. That boy is a liar. Those bikers coached him. My daughter drowned. My wife fell. Sarah's accident was investigated. I was cleared every single time. Mr. Lawson, you will address me, not the gallery, Judge Mercer said. He's my kid. Mine. You can't take what's mine based on the word of a biker gang and a 7-year-old with behavioral problems. Sit down, Mr. Lawson. No, I will not sit down. I have rights. I'm his legal guardian. I've done nothing wrong. Cole grabbed Derek's arm. Derek, sit down now. Derek shook him off. He stood up and pointed at Ethan. You did this. You ungrateful little... Mr. Lawson, one more word and I will hold you in contempt. Derek's face was red. Veins stood out on his neck.
He looked nothing like the weeping father from an hour ago. He looked exactly like the man who'd swung a hammer at a child's head. And every single person in the courtroom could see it. Cole pulled Derek back into his chair. Derek sat, breathing hard, hands clenching and unclenching. Judge Mercer removed her glasses. She looked at Derek for a long time, then at Ethan, then at the folder of evidence in front of her. "I'm prepared to rule." The room held its breath. The evidence presented today is deeply troubling. Documented injuries consistent with prolonged abuse. Multiple witnesses confirming a pattern of violence. Pharmacy records suggesting a child was being sedated without proper medical oversight. And a pattern of deaths and insurance payouts connected to the respondent that warrants immediate investigation by law enforcement. She looked directly at Derek. "Mr. Lawson, I am ordering full emergency custody of Ethan Marshall to the state of Tennessee, effective immediately. Your visitation rights are suspended indefinitely. A restraining order is hereby issued requiring you to maintain a distance of 500 feet from Ethan Marshall at all times. Violation of this order will result in immediate arrest. Furthermore, I am referring this matter to the district attorney for criminal investigation, including a review of the deaths of Lily Lawson, Jennifer Lawson, and Sarah Marshall." Derek shot to his feet. "You can't do this. Bailiff, he's mine. He belongs to me." Two bailiffs moved toward Derek. He shook them off. "This is not over. That kid is a liar, and those bikers are criminals. And when the truth comes out, remove him." The bailiffs grabbed Derek's arms. He thrashed, screaming. As they dragged him toward the door, he locked eyes with Ethan. "You're dead," he mouthed. Clear as day. "You're dead." Ethan didn't look away. He sat in that witness chair, 7 years old, feet dangling above the floor, and he stared at the man who'd tortured him for 3 years without blinking. Then Derek was gone. The doors closed behind him, and the courtroom exhaled. Angela put her hand on Ethan's shoulder. "You did it. You were so brave." "I wasn't brave. I was terrified." "That's the same thing, kid." Gunnar was waiting when Ethan stepped down. The boy walked straight to him and buried his face in Gunnar's chest. He didn't cry. He just stood there, holding on, breathing. "Is it done?" "The court part's done. You never have to go back." "He said I'm dead." I could read his lips. "He's not going to touch you, not ever again." "He killed Lily, didn't he? He killed his own daughter." Gunnar didn't answer right away. He looked over Ethan's head at Roach, who was standing by the door with his arms crossed and murder in his eyes. "Yeah, kid, I think he did." "And my mom? The car accident?" "We don't know yet, but people are looking into it." Ethan pulled back. His face was dry. His eyes were old. "If he killed my mom, then he took everything from me. My mom, my home, my whole life. He took everything and then he burned me with cigarettes for crying about it." Gunnar had nothing to say to that. There was nothing to say. So he just held the boy tighter. Outside, the Hells Angels were waiting. When Ethan walked through the courthouse doors, 107 men stood up straighter. Nobody cheered. Nobody clapped. This wasn't a celebration. This was a reckoning. Roach fell into step beside Gunnar. "Rita just called. Portland PD is reopening the Lily Lawson case, and the Tucson DA is looking at Jennifer's death again." "What about Sarah, Ethan's mom?" "Chief Bradley's pulling the accident report. He said something felt off about it at the time, but Derek's connections kept anyone from digging deeper. If they can prove he killed Sarah, then Derek Lawson goes away forever. For murder, not just abuse, murder." They reached the parking lot. Ethan stopped walking. He stood in the middle of 107 motorcycles, surrounded by men who should have terrified him, and he said something that silenced every one of them. "He told me nobody would ever believe me. He told me every night. He said I was nothing. He said nobody would care about a stupid kid with no mom. He said if I told, they'd send me to foster care and it would be worse. He said I'd never be safe anywhere." Ethan looked at Gunnar, then at Roach, then at Tank and Doc in chains, and every leather-vested, tattooed man standing around him. He was wrong. Gunnar picked him up. Ethan wrapped his arms around Gunnar's neck and held on. And for the first time since Thursday night, the boy allowed himself to believe that maybe, just maybe, the worst was over. But it wasn't, because 2 hours later, Rita called with a voice that was barely controlled panic. Derek posted bail. He's out. And Gunnar, his house is empty. He packed a bag. His car is gone. He withdrew $40,000 in cash from 3 different ATMs between the courthouse and the interstate. Where is he? Nobody knows. He's gone. Gunnar looked at Ethan, who was eating a sandwich on the couch, finally relaxed for the first time in days. Derek Lawson was out. He had cash. He had rage. He had nothing left to lose. And he knew exactly where his stepson was. Gunnar didn't tell Ethan right away. He watched the boy eat his sandwich, watched him flip through a comic book Tank had brought, watched him almost smile at something on the page, and he couldn't do it. Not yet. Not when the kid had just started breathing again. He stepped into the hallway and called Roach. How the hell did he make bail? Cole pulled strings, got a sympathetic magistrate. Bail was set at $50,000. Derek put up his house as collateral and walked out 40 minutes after the hearing. 40 minutes? We spent a week building that case and he walked in 40 minutes. That's the system, brother. The system is broken. Tell me something I don't know. Listen, I've already got the club on lockdown. Nobody leaves the tavern. We go to full perimeter watch. 4 men on every entrance, rotating every 4 hours. Chains is monitoring the security cameras. Tank's got scouts on the main roads coming into town. He's not going to come down the main road, Roach. He's not stupid. He's a man who's gotten away with murder 3 times. He plans. He waits. He picks his moment. Then we don't give him a moment. 24/7, eyes open until the cops find him. And if they don't find him, Roach was quiet for a beat. Then we find him first. Gunnar hung up and walked back to Ethan. The boy looked up from his comic. Something's wrong. What makes you say that? Your face changed. You look like you did the first night when Derek called the bar. What happened? Gunnar sat down. He'd promised himself he wouldn't lie to this kid. He'd promised himself he'd be the adult that he never had. The one who told the truth even when it hurt. Derek made bail. He's out. Ethan's body went rigid. The comic book slid from his fingers and hit the floor. His face drained of color so fast Gunnar thought he might pass out. Out? He's out? He's out, but he's not here. He ran, took cash and disappeared. The police are looking for him. They won't find him. Ethan's voice was flat, dead. The voice of a child who'd stopped being surprised by the world's failures. Derek's smart, smarter than everybody thinks. He fooled the whole town for 3 years. He fooled 3 whole towns. The police aren't going to find him. Maybe not, but we will. And then what? He comes back with another lawyer and another judge, and he gets me back, and this time he doesn't use a hammer. This time he uses something worse. This time he makes sure I don't run. That's not going to happen. You don't know that. Nobody knows that. The judge said I'm safe, and 2 hours later, he's walking around free. The system doesn't work, Gunnar. Not for kids like me. Gunnar had no argument, because the kid was right. The system had failed him at every single turn. Teachers who looked away. Cops who believed the charming man over the broken child. A court that set bail so a man who'd threatened to kill a 7-year-old could walk out and try again. The system might be broken, Gunnar said, but I'm not, and neither are the 106 men out there who aren't going to let anything happen to you. Ethan looked at him, those ancient eyes searching for the lie. I want to believe you. Then believe me. I'm trying. That evening, the tavern turned into a fortress. Every window was boarded from the inside. Every door was reinforced. Chains had rigged a camera system covering every angle, parking lot, back alley, the road in both directions, even the roof. Nothing bigger than a raccoon could approach Iron Creek Tavern without being seen. Rita Vance came by at 7 p.m. with an update. She wasn't in uniform. She was carrying her own weapon. "I'm officially off the case," she told Roach and Gunner. "Sergeant Harding pulled me this afternoon. Said I was too personally involved. He reassigned the search for Derek to 2 deputies who couldn't find their own feet in the dark. Harding's protecting him. Harding's protecting himself. If Derek goes down for murder, Harding goes down for obstruction. He buried those domestic calls for years. He's not looking for Derek, he's buying him time." "What about Chief Bradley?" "Bradley's trying. He's a good man, but he's got Harding undermining him from the inside and the mayor leaning on him from the outside. He put out a bolo on Derek's car, but that's about all he can do right now. So we're on our own. You've been on your own since the beginning. I'm just making it official." Rita set her badge on the bar. "I quit the department an hour ago. I'm here as a civilian, and I'm not leaving until that kid is safe." Roach looked at the badge, then at Rita. "You just threw away your career." "My career was being a cop who ignored a child getting tortured because my sergeant told me to. That's not a career worth keeping." Chains burst in from the back room. "Roach, I got something." They gathered around his laptop. Chains had been tracking Derek's ATM withdrawals, cross-referencing them with gas station security footage. 3 ATMs. The first was 2 blocks from the courthouse. The second was on Highway 71, heading south. The third was at a truck stop in Garrett County, 40 miles from here. All within an hour of each other. He was heading south. "Then he's running." "That's what I thought. But then I checked his credit card. He canceled it an hour after the last withdrawal. And his phone went dark at the same time. He pulled the SIM card. So he doesn't want to be tracked. That's consistent with running. Except for one thing." Chains pulled up a map. "Garrett County is south, but there's an exit at mile marker 47 that loops back north on County Road 12. If he took that exit, he could circle back to Ridgehaven from the west side without hitting a single traffic camera." "You think he doubled back?" "I think a man who's killed 3 people and gotten away with it knows how to misdirect. He wants us to think he ran south, but his target is here. His target is that 7-year-old sleeping on our couch." Roach turned to Tank. "Double the perimeter. I want men on County Road 12. I want scouts on every back road within 10 miles of this building." "Done. And Tank, tell them this isn't a patrol. This is a hunt. If they see Derek Lawson, they call me. They don't engage. They don't approach. They call me." "What if he's armed?" Roach's jaw tightened. "He swung a hammer at a 7-year-old's head. Assume he's armed. Assume he's dangerous. Assume he's got nothing left to lose." Night fell. The tavern was quiet in a way it had never been. No music, no pool balls cracking, no laughter, just the low hum of surveillance monitors and the occasional crackle of a walkie-talkie. Ethan sat on the couch with a blanket around his shoulders. He wasn't reading. He wasn't sleeping. He was just sitting, staring at the wall, his small body wound tight as a spring. Gunner sat beside him. He didn't try to make conversation, didn't try to comfort. Sometimes the most honest thing you could do for someone was just be there without pretending everything was okay. At 10:15 p.m., Ethan spoke. "Gunner, yeah, if Derek comes here tonight, what happens? He doesn't get through the door. But if he does, if he gets through somehow, will you stop him?" "Yes." "No matter what?" "No matter what. Even if stopping him means..." "Yes." Ethan was quiet, then very softly. "I don't want anyone to get hurt because of me." "Nobody's getting hurt because of you. If anyone gets hurt tonight, it's because of Derek, because of what he chose to do. You didn't cause any of this, Ethan. You survived it. There's a difference." "He doesn't think so. He thinks I ruined his life." "His life was ruined long before you were born. He ruined it himself, one victim at a time. Jennifer, Lily, your mom, you. He chose this, all of it. Do you think he killed my mom?" Gunner had been waiting for this question, dreading it,
I think there's a real possibility. The car accident. She drove off the road at night. They said she fell asleep at the wheel. But my mom didn't drive at night. She hated driving in the dark. She told me that. She always told Derek to drive if it was after sunset. You remember that? I was 4, but yeah, I remember her saying it. Derek, you drive, I can't see in the dark. And then one night she's driving alone in the dark and goes off the road? That doesn't make sense. No, it doesn't. If he killed her, he should die in prison. Not 12 years, not 20. He should die there. The hatred in the boy's voice was raw and real, and it made Gunner's chest ache. Not because it was wrong, because a 7-year-old shouldn't have to carry that kind of rage. That's not up to us, kid. That's up to the courts. The courts let him out today. Gunner had no answer for that either. At midnight, the first alarm tripped. Chains was on the monitors instantly. Movement, West Perimeter, County Road 12, quarter-mile out. Roach was at his shoulder. Vehicle? Headlights off, moving slow, just cleared the tree line. What kind of vehicle? Can't tell yet, too dark. Wait, it stopped. It's just sitting there. Every biker in the room was on their feet. Gunner moved to Ethan. Storage room, now. Is it him? We don't know yet. Storage room, go. Ethan went without argument. Gunner closed the reinforced door behind him and took position in the hallway. Roach sent 6 men out the back door in 3 pairs, circling wide to flank the vehicle from both sides. Tank led the left group. A veteran named Hawk led the right. Radio silence for 4 minutes, then Tank's voice, low and tight. It's him, blue Ford pickup. He's sitting in the driver's seat, engine off. He's got something in his lap. Can't tell what. Is he alone? Appears to be. Hold position, do not approach. Roach called Chief Bradley. The phone rang 6 times. 7, 8. Come on, Bradley answered, groggy. What? Derek Lawson is parked a quarter-mile from our tavern on County Road 12. He's in a blue Ford pickup. He's got something in his lap that might be a weapon. We need units here, now. I'm calling it in. Do not engage. I repeat, do not. We know, just get here. Bradley hung up. Roach turned to the room. Police are coming. Nobody touches Lawson. We wait. And if he moves on the building before they get here? Tank asked through the radio. Then we stop him, but only then. 7 minutes passed, the longest 7 minutes of Gunner's life. He stood in the hallway outside the storage room and listened to Ethan breathing behind the door and watched the security monitor mounted on the wall. The truck hadn't moved. Then it did. The headlights flicked on. The truck lurched forward, not toward the tavern, toward the back road that led around to the east side of the property. He's moving, Chains reported. East. He's circling. Where does that road go? Roach demanded. It comes out behind the building, by the dumpsters. There's a service entrance back there. Roach's face went white. Is it locked? Dead silence. Is the service entrance locked? Chains pulled up the camera. The service door, the one nobody had thought to reinforce because it was hidden behind the dumpsters and hadn't been used in months. It was propped open with a cinder block. Someone had put it there. Someone who'd been inside the building. Who propped that door open? Roach's voice was ice. Nobody answered. Harding, Rita said suddenly. Sergeant Harding was here yesterday. He walked through the building when he came to see Ethan. He went out the back. Nobody checked after him. He set us up. Harding propped the door for Derek. The truck was accelerating now, coming around the east side of the building fast. Everyone to the east entrance now, Roach shouted. Move! Gunner didn't move. He stayed in the hallway. He stayed between Derek and the storage room door. That was his job. That was his only job. He heard the truck skid to a stop behind the building. He heard the door slam. He heard boots on gravel, fast and heavy. Then the service entrance crashed open. Derek Lawson came through the door at a dead run. He was carrying a hunting rifle in one hand and a gas can in the other. His eyes were wild. His face was streaked with sweat. He looked like a man who'd already decided how this ended.
He made it 8 feet into the hallway before Gunnar stepped in front of him. Derek stopped. The rifle came up. The barrel pointed at Gunnar's chest from 6 feet away. "Move," Derek said. His voice was cracked, broken. A man standing at the edge of everything. "No. I'll shoot you. I swear to God I'll shoot you." "Then shoot me, but you're not getting past me." "He's mine. That boy is mine. I've got nothing left. They took my job. They took my house. They took my reputation. He's all I've got left and you can't take him from me." "He was never yours, Derek. He was a kid you used as a punching bag because you're too small to hit anyone your own size." "Shut up. You killed Lily. You killed Jennifer. You probably killed Sarah. And now you're here with a gun and gasoline to kill a 7-year-old boy because he had the courage to tell the truth about you." "I said shut up." "What kind of man does that, Derek? What kind of man hurts children?" "I am his father." "You're nothing. You're a coward with a rifle and a gas can, and you're standing in a building full of men who will tear you apart before you reach that door." Derek's hands were shaking. The rifle barrel wavered. Behind Gunnar, the storage room door was closed, and behind that door, Ethan Marshall was listening to every word. "Please," Derek's voice broke. Something in him fractured. "Please, I just need to see him. I just need him to understand. Everything I did, I was trying to make him strong. My father did it to me. His father did it to him. This is how you raise boys. This is how you make them tough. Your father was wrong, and so were you, and it ends here. It can't end. He's all I have. Without him, I'm nobody. I'm nothing. You were always nothing, Derek. You just used that boy to feel like something." Derek's finger tightened on the trigger. Gunnar didn't flinch, didn't breathe, didn't blink. He stood in that hallway like a wall made of flesh and bone and looked into the eyes of a killer. Then Tank hit Derek from the side like a freight train. The rifle discharged into the ceiling. Plaster rained down. Derek hit the floor with Tank on top of him, 300 pounds of controlled fury pinning him flat. The gas can skittered across the floor. 2 more bikers were on Derek in seconds, wrenching the rifle away, pinning his arms. Derek screamed. Not words, just sound. Raw, animal, broken. Gunnar didn't move. He stayed in front of the storage door. His heart was hammering so hard he could feel it in his teeth. But he didn't move. Not until Derek was down. Not until the rifle was clear. Not until Roach said the words, "Secure, he's done." Only then did Gunnar turn around. He opened the storage room door. Ethan was pressed into the far corner, knees drawn to his chest, hands over his ears. His eyes were squeezed shut. He was shaking so hard the shelves behind him were rattling. "Ethan, it's me. It's Gunnar." The boy's eyes opened, wild, terrified, lost. "Is he?" "He's down. It's over. I heard the gun. It hit the ceiling. Nobody's hurt. I heard everything he said. Through the door. I heard all of it." Gunnar crouched. "What did you hear?" "He said he did it to make me strong. He said his father did it to him." Ethan's voice was shaking. "Is that true? Did someone hurt him when he was little?" "I don't know, maybe. Does that make it okay?" "No, nothing makes it okay, ever. But if his dad hurt him, and then he hurt me, then, does that mean I'm going to hurt someone too? When I grow up? Is it like a disease? Does it get passed down?" Gunnar felt something tear open in his chest, because he'd asked himself that exact question 1,000 times. Lying awake at 14 on the streets of Birmingham, sitting in a jail cell at 19, straddling a Harley at 25, wondering if the poison his father poured into him would eventually leak out and destroy someone else. "No," Gunnar said, and he meant it with everything in him. "It's not a disease, it's a choice. Derek chose to hurt you. His father chose to hurt him, and you're going to choose different. I know you are." "How do you know?" "Because you ran. Because instead of hiding and taking it, you ran into the dark and asked for help. That's not what abusers do, Ethan. That's what survivors do. Sirens erupted outside. Red and blue lights flooded through the windows. Chief Bradley burst through the front entrance with 6 officers. Derek was still on the floor, pinned by Tank and 2 others. He'd stopped screaming. He was just lying there now, limp, eyes staring at nothing. The fight was gone. Derek Lawson, you're under arrest for attempted murder, attempted arson, violation of a restraining order, illegal possession of a firearm by a person under indictment, and felony menacing. You have the right to remain silent. They cuffed him, hauled him up, walked him through the tavern past 100 silent bikers who watched with eyes that promised things the law couldn't. At the door, Derek turned his head. He looked back down the hallway toward the storage room. Gunnar was standing in front of it, arms crossed. "Tell him I'm sorry," Derek whispered. "Tell him yourself, in 20 years, if he wants to listen." They put Derek in the squad car. The door closed. The sirens faded into the night. And in the storage room, Ethan Marshall sat on the cold floor with his back against the wall and his knees drawn up and his hands finally still. Not shaking, not gripping, not flinching. Still. Gunnar sat down beside him. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. The silence said everything. That it was over. That the monster was gone. That for the first time in 3 years, nobody was coming to hurt Ethan Marshall. At 2:47 a.m., the boy fell asleep against Gunnar's shoulder. And Gunnar sat there in the dark of that storage room, a rifle hole in the ceiling above him, and plaster dust in his hair, holding a sleeping child who'd been brave enough to end a cycle of violence that had consumed 3 families across 3 states. He thought about Lily Lawson, 5 years old, alone in a bathtub in Portland. He thought about Jennifer Lawson, dead at the bottom of a staircase in Tucson. He thought about Sarah Marshall, driving on a dark road she never would have driven alone. And he thought about the boy leaning against him, breathing steady, dreaming of nothing. 4 victims. 3 of them never had anyone show up, but the 4th one did. The trial took 11 days. Derek Lawson sat in the defendant's chair wearing an orange jumpsuit and the hollow expression of a man who'd run out of masks. Preston Cole had quit. The new attorney, a public defender named Gary Walsh, did his best. But there was nothing to work with. The security footage from Iron Creek Tavern showed everything. Derek with the rifle, Derek with the gas can, Derek pointing a weapon at Gunnar while a 7-year-old hid behind a door 6 feet away. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts: attempted murder, attempted arson, violation of a restraining order, illegal possession of a firearm, felony child abuse. 12 counts, 1 for every month the prosecution could document. But that wasn't the verdict that changed everything. 2 weeks after the conviction, the district attorney held a press conference. Portland PD had reopened the Lily Lawson case. New forensic analysis of the original autopsy photos revealed bruising on the child's ankles, consistent with being held underwater. The medical examiner who'd ruled it accidental recanted his findings. Derek Lawson was charged with the murder of his 5-year-old daughter. 1 week later, Tucson reopened Jennifer Lawson's case. The staircase fall that had killed Derek's first wife was re-examined by a forensic pathologist who concluded the injuries were inconsistent with a fall and consistent with blunt force trauma from behind. Derek was charged with second-degree murder, and then Chief Bradley called Gunnar personally. We pulled Sarah Marshall's accident report. The mechanic who examined her car after the crash found the brake lines had been cut. Clean cut, not wear, not corrosion. Someone took a blade to those lines. The original investigator noted it, but Sergeant Harding buried the report. It never made it to the file. Harding's been arrested. Obstruction of justice, evidence tampering, and conspiracy to conceal a homicide. He's talking. He says Derek paid him $15,000 to make the brake line report disappear. Gunnar sat down. His legs wouldn't hold him. 3 murders, 3 women and children, 3 cities, and a cop on the payroll making sure nobody ever connected the dots. What about Ethan's mom? Is Derek being charged? First-degree murder. Sarah Marshall didn't fall asleep at the wheel. She never even had a chance. Derek cut her brakes and sent her down a mountain road in the dark, knowing she'd never make the curve. Gunnar closed his eyes. He thought about Ethan saying, "My mom didn't drive at night." A 4-year-old's memory, the one detail nobody else caught, the one detail that started unraveling everything. Does the kid know? Not yet. That's your call, Gunnar. You're the one he trusts. Gunnar found Ethan in the back room of the tavern, drawing on a pad of paper that Doc had given him. The boy was sketching motorcycles. Crude, wobbly, but recognizable. Each one had a rider, and each rider had a name written underneath in careful block letters. Gunnar, Roach, Tank, Doc, Chains. "Hey kid, we need to talk." Ethan set down his pencil. He read Gunnar's face the way he always did. Fast, precise, searching for the threat. "It's about my mom." "Yeah, he killed her, didn't he?" "The police found proof. Her brakes were cut. Derek did it." Ethan didn't cry. He didn't scream. He sat perfectly still for a long time, staring at the drawing of the motorcycles. Then he picked up his pencil, and in the corner of the page, very small, he drew a woman with long hair standing next to the bikes. He wrote underneath, "Mom." "She's part of the family too," Ethan said quietly. "She's the reason I'm here. If she hadn't died, I never would have needed you. And if I never needed you, nobody would have found out about Lily. Or Jennifer. Or any of it." Gunnar stared at the boy. 7 years old, and he just articulated something that grown men with law degrees hadn't been able to see. "You're right," Gunnar said. "Your mom saved them. Through you." "No, she saved me. I just told the truth. The truth saved everyone." The sentencing came 8 months later. Derek Lawson stood in federal court and received 3 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. One for Lily, one for Jennifer, one for Sarah, plus 32 years for the attempted murder of Ethan and the assault charges. He would die in prison. When the sentence was read, Derek turned and looked at the gallery. Ethan was there, seated between Gunnar and Angela. The boy met his stepfather's eyes without flinching. Derek opened his mouth to speak. No sound came out. For the first time in his life, he had nothing to say. No charm, no lies, no masks, just a man in an orange jumpsuit realizing that a 7-year-old had beaten him. The bailiffs led him away. The door closed, and Ethan exhaled. "How do you feel?" Gunnar asked. "Empty, not sad, not happy, just empty." "That's okay. Empty fills up eventually." Angela had found him a home. Jim and Caroline Avery, a couple in their early 40s who lived on a small farm 30 minutes outside Ridgehaven. They'd fostered 3 children before. They understood trauma, patience, silence, nightmares, and they'd agreed without hesitation to Angela's one condition. "The Hells Angels stay in his life," Angela had told them. "Non-negotiable. Those men are his family." Caroline Avery had smiled. "Any family that stands between a child and a rifle is welcome at our table anytime." Moving day was a Saturday. Ethan packed everything he owned into a single duffel bag. It took 4 minutes, a boy's entire life in one bag. He stood in the tavern and looked at the men around him. 107 bikers who'd spent weeks sleeping on floors, standing watch in the cold, staring down a killer, and never once asking for anything in return. "I don't know how to say goodbye," Ethan said. "Then don't," Roach answered. "This isn't goodbye. This is see you Saturday." Every Saturday? Every Saturday, rain, snow, or sunshine, you'll be sick of us by Christmas. Tank crouched down, all 300 pounds of him folding like an accordion to meet the boy at eye level. "Kid, you're the toughest person I've ever met, and I've met some tough people." "I'm not tough. I was scared the whole time." "That's what tough is, scared and still standing." Doc shook Ethan's hand with formal military precision. "You ever need a medic, you call me, day or night.
I don't care if it's a scraped knee or a broken heart. Thanks, Doc. And eat. 3 meals a day, every day. You've got growing to do. Chains handed Ethan a cell phone. Pre-programmed, every number you need. Gunner's on speed dial 1. Roach is 2. Mine is 3. Tank is 4. You press any of those numbers and we're there in 30 minutes or less. Like pizza delivery? Faster and scarier. Ethan almost laughed. Almost. Then he turned to Gunner. They stood facing each other, the massive biker and the small boy. The man who'd been broken at 6 and spent 30 years welding himself back together, and the child who'd been broken at 4 and had just started the same journey. I don't know what to say to you, Ethan whispered. You don't have to say anything. You saved my life. You saved your own life. You ran. You asked for help. You told the truth when every person in your world told you to stay quiet. That was all you, Ethan. I just stood in a hallway. You stood in a hallway with a rifle pointed at your chest. Yeah, well, Gunner's voice was rough. I told you I don't break promises. Ethan reached into his duffel bag and pulled out the drawing. The one with the motorcycles and the riders and the woman with long hair in the corner. He'd added something since the last time Gunner saw it. At the very center of the page, between the bikes and the woman, he'd drawn a small boy holding hands with a tall man covered in tattoos. Underneath, in careful block letters, my family. Gunner took the drawing. His hands were steady. His jaw was tight. His eyes were burning, but he didn't look away. Best gift I ever got, he said. He folded it carefully and slid it into his vest pocket, over his heart. Ethan hugged him. Gunner wrapped his arms around the boy and held on. Not too tight, not too loose, just enough to say everything that words couldn't. Then Ethan pulled back, picked up his duffel bag, and walked out the door. Caroline Avery was waiting by the truck. She took Ethan's bag and opened the passenger door for him. Ethan climbed in. He looked back at the tavern one last time, at the motorcycles, at the men, at Gunner standing in the doorway with a hand over his vest pocket. He didn't wave, he just nodded, a small, serious nod. The nod of someone who'd walked through fire and come out the other side still standing. The truck pulled away. 1 year later, Ridgehaven was different. The town council passed Ethan's law, mandatory reporting of suspected child abuse, with criminal penalties for failure to report. Mrs. Park led the training program for teachers across the county. Coach Dawson started a youth mentorship partnership with the Hells Angels that put at-risk kids together with bikers who understood what it meant to grow up hard and survive. Iron Creek Tavern hung a sign by the front door. If you need help, knock. Any hour, any age, no judgment. 5 children knocked in the first year. Every one of them was heard. The community center was built on the lot where Derek Lawson's house had stood. The city had seized the property. The Hells Angels organized the fundraiser that paid for construction. It was named the Sarah Marshall Community Center. On the day it opened, Ethan spoke. He was 8 now, taller, stronger. His eyes still carried shadows, but they carried light too. He stood at the podium with 107 Hells Angels behind him, in full colors, and a town full of people who'd learned the hardest lesson there was. That evil doesn't always look like evil, and heroes don't always look like heroes. A year ago, I was a kid that nobody believed. I told the truth and got my wrist broken for it. I asked for help and got burned with cigarettes. I tried to be good enough and got hit with a hammer. And then one night I ran out of a house where a man wanted to kill me, and I found the only people in the world who were willing to listen. He looked at the Hells Angels. Everyone said they were dangerous. Everyone said they were criminals. Everyone said stay away. But when I was bleeding and barefoot and terrified, they opened the door. They fed me. They believed me. And they stood between me and the man who wanted me dead. Not because they had to, because that's who they are. He gripped the podium with both hands. My mom used to say that family isn't blood. It's the people who show up. For 3 years, nobody showed up for me. And then 107 people showed up all at once. On motorcycles.
in leather vests, with tattoos and beards and criminal records, and the biggest hearts I've ever known. His voice was steady, clear, the voice of a boy who'd learned that the truth was the one thing nobody could take from him. If you're out there listening and you're scared and you think nobody cares, you're wrong. Someone cares. Someone will believe you. You just have to be brave enough to ask. And sometimes the person who saves you won't look anything like what you expected. The applause shook the building. Afterward, Ethan found Gunnar standing alone by his motorcycle, away from the crowd. The biker had his arms crossed and his jaw tight, and his eyes fixed on something far away that only he could see. Hey. Hey, kid. Good speech? Best I ever heard. Gunnar? Yeah? I'm going to be okay. Gunnar looked at him, 8 years old, standing straight, eyes clear. Yeah, Gunnar said. I know you are. Ethan smiled, a real smile, the kind that starts deep and rises slow and changes everything it touches. Then he turned and walked back to the Averys, who were waiting by their truck with warm food and open arms and a bedroom with his name on the door. Gunnar watched him go. He reached into his vest pocket and touched the folded drawing. The motorcycles, the woman with long hair, the tall man with tattoos holding hands with a small boy. My family. He thought about the night it all started. A barefoot kid sprinting across a gravel parking lot with blood on his face and terror in his eyes. A child who ran toward the scariest thing he could find because the scariest thing he could find was still safer than the man who was supposed to love him. Sometimes the world breaks a child, and sometimes, if you're lucky, you get to be the one who puts him back together. Not with words, not with promises, with presence, with patience, with the simple, stubborn act of showing up and refusing to leave. That's what it means to be family. Not blood, not law, not obligation, just showing up every single time.